there's definitely, some rivalry. Yeah, it was getting pretty heated. There's always going to be people that are a little bit sore about, beating them. And yeah, I think if I end up having that same moment again in my life, I'll just try and run away from them and fight back harder. So all night practice, all night quali night, just like, barfing and everything coming out of every hole you could ever imagine. So it was pretty, it was pretty gruesome. I woke up and had the call with the doctor, and he's like, "Yeah, I think you need to come into surgery right now." That was some of the most pain I've ever experienced in my life, even worse than the appendix. Before my surgery, I was probably weighing in about like 62 kilos, 63, and I weighed myself, and at my lowest, I was 51 kilos. So I lost, 10, 11 kilos of weight in 2 weeks.
Jackson Goldstone, welcome back to the Downtime Podcast, man. How's things?
Yeah, things are great. Stoked to be back. It's been a few years since I've done one of these with you. So, yeah, got a lot to catch up on.
We have, yeah. 2021 last time. You were pretty much in the thick of your junior career at that point. The first year of juniors was going pretty well. And I think it's fair to say the biggest talking point of that junior 2 years was the rivalry between you and Jordan. And I'm intrigued to find out what that was like from your perspective, because you're actually in that battle, but it definitely drew a lot of attention to the junior racing, which was cool.
Yeah, I know. Our junior ranks were pretty tight between me and Jordan. It was kind of, it was me and him really battling against each other, and we put down some pretty incredible times. But I think it was really good for us to mature into our elite careers. Having that battle, like, just pushing each other and trying to beat each other was really hard. So I think it definitely helped us in the long run.
Yeah. Does it help with like the sportsmanship side of things as well? Because when you're young, like, it's kind of hard to deal with some of that stuff sometimes, I guess, when you've got someone that's that good to battle against week in, week out. Do you feel it's helped you deal with that sort of the sporting side of things as well, like getting used to not always necessarily having it your own way?
Yeah, it's frustrating at times, but I think having that person that you're always battling against is good in the long run for sure. During the races and stuff, we're still friends and catch up every now and again, but there's definitely some rivalry. There's times, in Fort William where he beat me by like 0.03 of a second where, that's super frustrating, but, that's racing, and it's all such a personal sport, which is cool. Like, it's not like, in motocross, he took me out and ruined my race. It's very personal in that kind of way. So, there's nothing to really, be angry about.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. And you also made a big move from the Miranda team onto the Santa Cruz Syndicate. Again, I'm interested in what that was like for you, because the syndicate, I think, comes with as much media attention as you're ever going to get. Like, it's one of the more popular teams in the paddock from that side of things. And I'm also guessing there's a pressure to perform there that maybe wasn't quite as significantly felt at Miranda. Like, how did you feel making that move?
Yeah, so the move from like my first year junior with Miranda and like Trek and all personal sponsors was it was hard, because that year it was pretty much, me and my mom going to all the races, paying for all the travel and all that. And Miranda was just, they helped out with the mechanic and some of the race entries and that kind of side of it. So, the support was there, but it wasn't anything like Syndicate. So, it was a massive step up for me for sure. And, I think there's no better place than the Syndicate.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because you'd grown up with so much kind of media attention, that helped you deal with that side of the syndicate? Because I think some riders stepping in, especially at a young age, could find that pretty intimidating.
Yeah. I think what's so cool with the syndicate is that, it may seem like there's so much pressure to win and stuff, but, we're all such a good team and we all respect each other a lot. And I think that, they're really good at keeping the pressure low, and it's it's such a good family that it doesn't even feel like there's much pressure coming from the higher ranks. It's it's just one big family.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So you rounded out your final junior year with what I think was sort of effectively your first elite race or riding in the elite category. And you chose Hardline for that. Wouldn't be my choice of a first 18 plus race, but there you go. How did you feel about going to that event? You've obviously had the chance to see it many times on the telly, but how did you feel finally going there?
Yeah, Hardline's, always been a dream. And, I feel like it really, shows both of my strong suits with racing and the, free ride jump side of it. So it's kind of like my perfect race, being able to show, everyone that I can, hit big jumps and still go fast still. So, I think that's, that was probably one of my favorite races to date, just with, how the week went. It was so much fun riding that track. And, it's just a big, fun, time with all the riders and it just feels like you're hanging out, and then you're like, oh, let's go do a race run. So it's a really cool environment.
Yeah, it does always look like a good week. And I think you were the first person that year to put in a full run. Was that a conscious decision? Because I think there's only so much time you can make up on those big features. Most of it, I guess, is going to come from how you link it together.
Yeah, exactly. So I was doing a practice run, and we were kind of like, you would go up in groups on the track, and then kind of work your way down together, testing out the jumps and, maybe following someone in if you haven't hit that jump before. So practice is really like, it's not like you're there on your own. You're working with all the other riders to make it through. And it's cool that, you can do that. It doesn't really happen at a normal World Cup. So, for me, like, I was doing that full run. I was like kind of at the top. I was thinking like, there's no one else up here with me, because I just went up for an extra one to get some more laps in. I was like, well, I don't think anyone's done a full run, and I kind of want to like actually treat this like a race and get some proper practice in before I do my quali run the next day. So, I did that top to bottom, and it was one of the scariest things I've done, because, I was so low. It wasn't super good conditions. Like, there was some wind still, and I kind of just decided, like, if the wind's good and I, keep kind of progressing my way down and, everything's going smooth, I'll just keep going. So, that was a pretty cool feeling, doing a top to bottom run. I don't know if the GoPro's out there somewhere, but I got down to the bottom and I was just like screaming because I was so stoked.
Yeah, that's a hell of a track to do that on. And then, to go and back that up, taking the win on the end of the weekend, it's got to feel pretty good. And you took it by quite a margin, eh? Joe Smith is a very good rider, super talented at Hardline, like always goes well there. But you put, I think, 7 seconds in over like a 2-minute 20 track. That's a pretty big margin.
Yeah, I think it was just under 7 seconds, around the 6.5 mark. That was crazy. I mean, I definitely did get lucky with some of the other top riders crashing, like Charlie Hatton crashed, Adam Brayton crashed, Bernard crashed. But that's racing. That's how it goes. So I definitely dodged a few bullets there, but still being able to put down that run was a really good feeling.
Definitely. And then a good confidence boost coming into like your off season between your junior and your elite career. Did you change much up in that off season? Like, were there certain things that you wanted to work on to get ready for elite, or did you feel like you were just good to kind of crack on with what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, stepping into elites is obviously a big step. Some people, go into from winning all their junior races to, just being on the brink of qualifying. So, obviously I had no clue where I was going to end up. And I think that was a good approach for me. Like, I didn't come in with the mindset that like, I'm going to win this, because I feel like, you don't know how much other people are trained. You don't know how prepared you are and all that stuff. So, I treated my off season, kind of the same as every other race, or like every other season before that. And, just worked as hard as I could and really just tried to focus on, getting faster and stronger and improving on the year before. So, I just kind of kept to my similar routine and yeah.
Yeah, and a pretty hectic off season. You had the Santa Cruz trip down to Australia, New Zealand, whole new bike to get up to speed on. But you took the win at the Australian national champs and then the New Zealand national champs, like pretty much back to back. Again, the confidence It's got to be building, I guess. Do you ever start thinking about the fact that you might win, or like changing some of your expectations for the season when you start having results like that early?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a confidence booster. Doing well at those national races. Obviously, the field isn't quite as stacked, but there's still top 10 riders that are going, like Troy Brosnan and those guys. So it's not like it was a walk in the park. I really put down everything I could for those two races, and I think it's definitely like a good confidence booster, and I wasn't really expecting to be up there with the top guys. I was coming off a really, really good trip in New Zealand, and I had just the best time training down there. I felt like I was hadn't ridden a bike that fast ever in my life before, and that was I kind of lined up everything really well with my preparation and training, and I was definitely ready for racing that early in the season, which I got to try and do again.
Yeah, nice. And you spent a bit of time out in Loser as well, I think, with some testing before the season kicked off. Was that testing suspension stuff, or were there other things on the bike that you were playing with while you're out in Loser?
So we went from that Lord's test camp that the ESO and Warner Brothers put on, we had spent a week there. It was a weird one because it felt like it wasn't supposed to be a race, but then kind of as the weekend progressed, it was like, oh my gosh, this is actually like we're going to do a semifinal run. We're going to do a final run. Like, this is kind of turning into a race without us even knowing it. So, that was one that all the racers kind of came in and realized that, like, okay, well, this is changing quickly. And we even had a podium for it. So, I did some testing there, but weather was pretty not ideal, and it was really hard to ride that track. So some of the stuff that we were planning on testing there got moved to that Lusa test camp. We spent 4 days of proper riding down there. We did two days with Fox working on suspension, so going through all their different tunes and the two dampeners that they had for us there. And then also had spent 2 days working with some wheels and just kind of, playing with other stuff as well. So I was, messing around with my grips and, stack height and just always kind of playing to find that right feeling. But, I definitely made a bunch of really good improvements there. Switched up what wheels I was running. I went from 32 hole to 28 and really found some good improvements there. And then once we got into the new Fox stuff, it was like I left that trip feeling like, we had the bike pretty spot on.
Do you like to try and get things kind of nailed down then on the bike setup side of things, and then kind of leave it as much as you can through the season? Are you that sort of rider, or are you more on the Greg Minnaar end of the spectrum?
I feel like I'm kind of on the other side of the Greg Minnaar spectrum. I feel like with my riding style, I can adjust my riding style pretty easily to like make up for things that are wrong with the bike. Okay. So like if I miss I noticed that a lot in preseason that, I was riding the bike, and then once my mechanic and the rest of the team showed up, they were like looking at my setup and they're like, well, what are you doing here? Like, this isn't really, we should change some things. So I definitely feel like, it's not the setup doesn't really, make or break my racing. And, I think that I can adjust my riding style to fit the setup pretty well. But, it's still, if you can nail your riding style and the bike setup, it's just the perfect combination. So, definitely tweak almost every race. And, I try to always find little small improvements here and there, but it's nothing that's going to keep me up at night.
Yeah. Is that tweaking mostly on the suspension front rather than on like more geometry based stuff?
Yeah, mostly on the suspension side of things. I feel like the things that we adjust most is suspension and kind of stack height with the bars. So adding, stem spacers in or taking them out. And I pretty much stayed with the same reach, the same like rear end length and the same shock position the whole year. But it's, kind of just tweaking those little small things.
Yeah. So everything's looking pretty good then. You're coming out of a solid off season with a fast bike, 2 national championship wins from down under. What were your goals in your head at this point? What did you want to achieve? What would have a successful season have looked like for you?
Well, my mindset definitely changed pretty drastically throughout the season. Just race by race, I was like, "Hey, I want to be closer to the top." And then, by the end of it, I was feeling like I was a, top 3 rider. So, coming into the season, I had low expectations. I was, my goal for the whole season was to get, a podium or a top 3. And, I didn't know how soon that was going to come. I didn't know if there was going to be a win involved. You just don't know what's going to happen because it's, every race is so different. So, I came in with low expectations, and I think that was a good thing because, I didn't, when I finished 6th at my first race, I didn't feel like I was, angry about it that I missed the podium by that much. And, I didn't feel like I was, had to be there with those top guys. So, I worked out to get some pretty good, insane results. But, I think coming in with that low expectation helped, keep the pressure off.
Yeah. When something else that maybe helped keep the pressure off, I don't know, but you were pretty much hospitalized. Well, you were hospitalized the week before Lenzerheide. When did the whole appendix issue start to raise its head?
Yeah. So, I ruptured my appendix. I think it was kind of end of April, maybe around that time. I'm not sure the exact date. But that wasn't a fun one. I was hospitalized for a week there up in Vancouver. And then, I was pretty cooked, had to take a few weeks off and not really train that much and just kind of really focus on my health before I started to get back into riding. And then, I had another inflammation of my appendix the week before the race. So I think it was on the Thursday, a week before practice started was when I had to go back to the hospital, stay there for another 4 days over in Morzine. And it was really not the training that I was expecting to get preseason, because we had this whole team camp in Morzine that was booked out, and I was really looking forward to that, but sadly had to miss that whole training time due to sitting in the hospital, which was not fun. But
not good. Did you come straight from hospital to plenty laps? Is that a rumor or is that true?
No, that's true. I'll get into that in a second. So it was tough being sidelines that, and I was as the rumor got out that I was in the hospital, people were like, "Oh, he's gonna miss the first race," all this stuff, and I think the UCI put out a statement that I was in the hospital and I'm gonna miss the first race, when I actually hadn't even said anything on my end, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna race. I'm gonna see how it goes," and I it was valuable. It's always valuable to race every single one you can, and so I got out of the hospital on the Sunday at maybe 10 in the morning, and then it was a 2-hour drive back up to Morzine, and I just kitted up and got riding right then and there, and I was riding by about 12:30 just to get a few laps in and kind of just see how I was feeling, to more not as much so train and really work back, just to kind of see how I was feeling on the bike and make the decision can I race or not. But I wasn't feeling all time. I wasn't feeling like I was back in Australia when I won nationals and all that. So I made the call that I was feeling good enough to race, and I think it was it was definitely the right one, but it was a hard one because you don't want to and maybe mess up things further. And, I was on antibiotics at the time as well, so I wasn't really feeling very good, and just even walking around was kind of hard. So, the hardest part for me in it all was like doing my warm up and like all that side of it. But it kind of, as soon as I dropped into like actually riding my bike, all that kind of went away, all the pain and stuff. So that was pretty good. But yeah, a month on antibiotics and painkillers is not a great way to start your first 3 races of your elite season. So
it's not ideal, is it, man?
Hoping for something better this year.
Yeah, so 6th place, given all of that, is an insanely good result. But I guess the sort of fly in the ointment is that your arch rival from your junior career stood on the top step. Jordan took the win there. And it's a bit of a fairy tale kind of first elite race, first win thing, which I'm sure you would have liked to do as much as Jordan would. How did it feel for you? Did the whole appendix thing kind of help soften that a little bit and take the pressure off?
Yeah, definitely. I was happy for Jordan. It's we may be like, pretty tight rivals in the junior ranks, but to see, both of us make that step up and actually make a big impact in the elite ranks is it's a really cool thing. So I was stoked for him to take the win, and it's cool to see that the new guys can hang. So yeah, I mean, being one place off the podium was a little bit bitter, but it was still from where I was coming from and coming from the hospital. It was a dream start for me.
Yeah, and you got to see Loic and Finn's faces firsthand as their new teammate beat them at the first round of the season. Must have been an interesting place to be, like watching those guys deal with that as well.
Yeah, because I came in on my run. I think I came into like second or third. So I came into the hot like podium hot seat thing, and I got to chat with Loic and Finn a little bit, and then Jordan came down, and they were like, what? They were like, I don't know if they were like mad or like stoked, or I don't know really what they were feeling, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of emotions going on between them. It was pretty funny to see.
Yeah, definitely. So were you feeling any better the following weekend then? Because we were back to back, weren't we? I think into Leogang.
Yeah, I think Leogang, I wouldn't say I was feeling better. I was feeling better on the bike, just having a bit more time and getting a bit of that strength back. I had 2 good gym sessions and was able to get some of that strength back that I lost from the whole appendix thing the week before. So I was able to get feeling a bit stronger and get a bit more bike time. So I was feeling better on the bike. But yeah, just still, had that nagging kind of pain, and it would come and go quite often. Like there's times, I'd wake up and I'd be feeling like there's nothing wrong at all. And then, as the day progressed and as I was doing more and more things, it sometimes would get worse or get better. It was kind of hard to predict how I was feeling. But yeah, I think it was my Leogang quali run. We're all like warming up. It was like raining on and off, and I couldn't do my warm up. I was trying to do like these like plank push up things and like spin on the bike, and it was just like I actually threw up before that race run just because I was feeling so horrible. And I was talking to my mechanic Woody, and we were like kind of made the decision that I was just gonna like drop in, like pull off the side of the track and just kind of have a DNF because I was protected from the week before. Mm-hmm. So that was the decision that we made. But I hit the first 2 corners, and it I started to feel better, and so I was like, all right, well, let's push on. So I was able to make it to the bottom. I definitely didn't pedal or push as hard as I could have, but still had a pretty good result. I'm pretty sure I was 8th at that quali, maybe, or I'm not exactly sure. But still to get that with the preparation that I had was pretty cool, and definitely kind of set a bit of a tone for the rest of the weekend. That if I was feeling like I could actually do my warm up and put a run down, that I had some pace in me. So yeah, it was a good start to the week.
Yeah, and it ended up with a 3rd place. There was that slide out in the last turn. What actually happened there? Did you just run offline a bit?
Yeah, I mean that Leogang run was a really, really good run for me. All the way up until that slide out. Yeah, I just had had such a fun time on that run. Like I was just smiling the whole way down, linking every single corner perfectly. Like I felt like, I was missing every hole that I needed to, I felt like that was, some of the most precise riding I've ever done, like line wise. And, my one thing for that race was trying to not lose as much time on the motorway. Because, as a small guy, I don't carry much speed. So that was one thing that I was really focusing on, is just going as fast as I can on the motorway. So, I think I luckily got a bit of a tailwind, and I didn't actually lose that much time. I think I only lost like 0.4 of a second to Andy Kolb on that. So, that's a win in itself for me. And then I kept, going into the bottom woods. I was, that was my max riding. Like I hit everything perfect. And then, I was just so jazzed up from that run that, came into that last section, maybe a little bit hot, kind of missed one little breaking point. And, I feel like my rear wheel kind of just kicked out a little bit and then was on the outside of that rut. And then it just like kind of spun me out. And, the fact I didn't crash there, I have no clue how. But I'm super thankful that I didn't. And I think I was 0.9 of a second off the win there with that mistake. And I looked at both of our GoPros, and me and Andy, and if I didn't have that mistake, I would have been like pretty close to winning, or if not, would have won that race. So, frustrating to have that mistake so close to the finish line, but it's still a good learning curve, and just trying to find that balance of the pace that you need to be on a race run without making mistakes is hard.
Yeah, for sure. And there's two ways to look at that, I guess. One is that you threw away the win, and the other is that you've shown yourself that you've got the speed to win. And I'm kind of interested in, like, whatever happens to you, you always seem to take the positive side of that story, not the negative side. Like, you always seem to be, and this might just be looking from the outside, I'm not sure if you feel that way, but like, I always feel like you don't seem to be fazed by a whole lot. Like, have you done any work throughout your career so far with like sports psychologists or anyone like that? Or is this just your natural programming?
I'd say it's my natural programming. I've had one session with a psychologist like that, but I really feel like I didn't gain anything, so I never went back. I think that's just kind of how I was raised. My parents felt like they always taught me to take the positive side in things, and I think that that's in the past now. So why dwell on it and get upset about it? I mean, it's obviously it's not like I just totally forgot about it. Like it's still in the back of my mind. Like, oh, like that would have done this to me or whatever. But it's there's nothing I can change now. So I mean, why really care about it?
Yeah, fair. And you took that positive then and moved on to Val Di Sole, which turned out to be a pretty good weekend for you, but also quite a challenging weekend, right? I think there was a decent amount of pain again, like struggling with warm-ups, that kind of stuff. And although they'd added a fair amount of dirt to that track from the previous year, it's still not a track to be riding when you're not feeling tip-top, huh?
Yeah, that was, I'd say, definitely top 3 hardest tracks of the year. Snowshoe and Mont are in there, but I'd say it was between that and Val Di Sole and Snowshoe were the hardest tracks of the year. Val Di Sole is just they put in so much dirt, but it was so dry and dusty that the dirt just basically went into the air and kind of disappeared. So the holes were just as big as the year before, and trying to find the line was really hard because all the rocks and roots were like covered in dust. So it was hard to tell the difference between, what you're actually riding on and what's underneath your tires. So, that was hard, but definitely had some motivation going into that one. Like, I've gotten this close, like I can do it. Like, let's go. And, there was some rain before our, I think it was before our semis run, or I can't remember exactly when the rain was, maybe before the finals run. So we're, the last guys were like, okay, where are we gonna, what's the track going to be like? Don't know if it's going to be slippery or not. And, I think I ended up qualifying third there, or second or third. Getting through the semis at second and third. So I was one of the last guys to drop. And yeah, again, like I'm going up for my race run and about to start my warm up, and the pain kicks in again. So this one instead of hitting on the qualifying run, it hit on my semis run, or my finals run, sorry. And yeah, I was like trying to do my warm up, and I actually just sat down for about 20 minutes on the stairs, and just kind of chilled out, like tried to settle everything down, and just kind of talk to my mechanic Woody, and just like have fun with it, and not really put too much pressure on the final. And I think after listening to some good music, and kind of I did a little bit of a spin before my run, and I wasn't feeling great up until the start gate, and then that once you hear those beeps, it kind of just turns on this pretty crazy mindset. So yeah, I came out the gate and I was like, okay, we've got a break after this. Up until Worlds, there was I think it was like a month or maybe 5 weeks even.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just give it all. Let's if I crash, I crash. If I hurt myself, I have time to recover or whatever. And so I came full beans out the start gate and almost crashed in the first corner.
Yeah, nearly went out the front.
And yeah, just like the rut kind of was a little bit wet, and I just like lost the front end a bit, and then it actually ended up catching at the top of the berm, and had a big push up, and somehow made it around the next corner. And then we went over that little drop, and then in that next left-hand corner, I honestly can't even explain what happened, but lost my foot and like oversteered in the corner, and like nearly went off the track. So that was an interesting start to my run for sure. But like for me, when I'm in like a race run where like I really feel like I'm on one and not making mistakes, you forget about everything that happens even a second ago. Just because everything's coming at you so quickly, you feel like you're in tunnel vision, that you don't have time to think about what just happened. Like you have to put all your focus into the next rock garden and that corner and this section and all the stuff that comes after. So I see the video of doing that slide out and losing my foot, but I barely remember actually doing it.
Okay.
And then, I kind of, took a few corners, but I got into the rhythm, and, kind of, chilled out a little bit, and found that kind of race pace that I had, and, pretty much nailed everything else from down there. I think there was, there was obviously sections that I could have improved on for sure. And like, there was lines that I have never done before that I accidentally did, but worked out. But it was just like, it was just going with the flow, that race run. It's a hard one to explain because I don't know how I did it. Just like there's a section down at the bottom that was right after the section where Greg actually injured himself in 2022. Uh-huh. There's like that fast long bit, and then you turning left into this like super powdery, like slow corner, and then into another rock garden. And I was struggling with that section the whole time. I didn't know what the line was, and so I was planning on holding it fully inside. And then come to my run, I'm coming in way too hot to hold the inside. So I go inside, and then I like couldn't make the inside corner, so I like went to the outside after. And like then and there, I realized that was the line that I was looking for the whole time. So it ended up being so much quicker, and it worked out great in my race run. But definitely not what I was planning.
Interesting, like riding fully on instinct by the sounds of it, like totally in the zone.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to explain more of it, but it's like I don't even remember what happened. I just see the videos of it, and then I get faint memories. But that was one where I was quite focused in the zone.
That's amazing. That must have felt pretty good. And your first elite win on a track like that as well. That must have felt incredible to take it in that way on that track. Yeah, no, it was cool because everyone was so like
on edge with how the rain was, and there was a lot of talk around the pits like, oh, is it like, are the guys at the end even going to be able to go faster than the people that rode it in the dry? And there was all this stuff that was going on, and a lot of talk. But just to put a race run down and then look back at the timing board, and the first thing that I saw was like green, and I was like, yes, into the hot seat, stoked on that. And then I saw 0.4 of a second. But then, like, once I kind of, talked to Steve and all that and like chilled out of it, I read it again, and it was 2.4 seconds. And that absolutely blew my mind. So had no clue that I came into the hot seat by that much. But such a good feeling.
Yeah, amazing. What's the response been like from the other kind of top riders? Because it must be quite hard to see a rider jump up from juniors and start beating them so quickly, right? There's people that are getting used to taking a lot of wins and a lot of podiums, and everyone knew you and Jordan were a threat, but I don't think maybe everyone believed that you were both going to take victories in your first season.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I don't know what the other riders are saying when I'm not around, but I feel like I have a good relationship with pretty much everyone. I'm always talking with all the guys, and I just try to keep it, try to be nice to everyone and just not make any bad connections. And I mean, I definitely, there's always going to be people that are a little bit sore about beating them and that, but at the end of the day, it's you that's racing. It's not me messing you up or anything. So I just kind of brush off my shoulders, and if they say anything, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't mean anything. So I just always look forward.
Yeah. And talking about looking forward, in theory, we were looking forward to World Champs in Fort William, a track where you go well. But obviously you made the decision to take some time out and go and get the appendix sorted finally. Was that an easy decision, or did you kind of and ah over it?
It was a quick decision. So I won Val Di Sole. I woke up that next morning, or sorry, actually the race morning, I had a Zoom call with a doctor and a really, really good physio at Red Bull who's not there anymore, Amy. She was kind of helping me through the process and like giving me stuff to kind of think about and ideas on maybe when to get the surgery to actually get it removed. I think it was like the day before, like quali morning or race morning. I can't remember exactly what day. I had a call with the doctor and kind of gave the rundown on what's going on, and he was like, okay, well, call me on Monday or Sunday, and after your racing's done, and then we'll make a plan on what to do. And Sunday morning after the race, I woke up and had the call with the doctor, and he's like, yeah, I think you need to come into surgery right now. So it was a pretty big shock, and I looked at all the options of like, what recovery is going to be like, am I going to make this race? And Hardline was also coming up as well. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I just won a race. I got third at the one before and I got sixth. I was leading the overall at the time. And I was like, you know what, Hardline and Worlds, like, it's two of my favorite races. I'd love to go, but this is more important. And so I made the decision to go to Salzburg and get the surgery done. And it was pretty crazy. I had a meeting with the doctors on the Monday after I took a train there, and then was in for surgery on Tuesday. Sorry. So it was quick. It came about pretty quick, and then recovery from that was pretty tough. I stayed a week after the surgery in Salzburg in Munich, just to kind of chill before I flew in case anything went wrong on the plane. It's pretty dangerous. There's nothing you can really do if something goes wrong on the plane. Like it's so I wanted to give it a little bit of time before I flew, and then starting to feel better, starting to eat normal foods again, and kind of feeling better. And then I don't know what it was on the plane, or something that I ate, or I'm not sure exactly what it was, but kind of everything got really swollen again after that flight. I think it could have been a bit of altitude or maybe the painkiller that I took. I'm not sure. But basically my intestines swelled up to nothing, so no food could pass through.
Oh man.
And that was some of the most pain I've ever experienced in my life. Even worse than the appendix. It was tough because my parents were still in Europe. They were on the rest of the trip. I was home alone. At least I live about 100 meters away from the hospital. It's like right over this little hill here. So there was a few nights that I was hobbling down to the hospital to go get painkillers and go deal with it that way. Basically after I got home, I didn't eat any solid foods for 2 weeks.
Wow.
It was just water, soup, and more water, really.
Wow. How much weight did you lose?
So before my surgery, I was probably weighing in about 62 kilos, 63. And I weighed myself, and at my lowest, I was 51 kilos. So I lost, 10, 11 kilos of weight in 2 weeks. So
that's a huge percentage of your body weight. Man.
Yeah, it was gnarly. And, I was looking down at myself, looking at my arms and my stomach, and it was like I was a twig. I had nothing to me. And, I'm not a big guy to start with. So, I was really skinny. I'd take my dog for a walk and I'd come back, and that felt like I just did a 3-hour ride just because I had no energy, no strength whatsoever. And so, after those 2 weeks of not eating, started to, feel better, started to eat some proper foods, and, things kind of started to chill out a bit. It still wasn't ideal. And I still was, eating less. And then kind of by that 4th week mark, I started working with my trainer again, Damien, and he kind of put me on this pretty gnarly diet plan with another dietitian lady. And that was a pretty big eye-opening moment for me in time, because I've never, with training in the off season and stuff, you have as long as you need. You have 5-6 months to build up that strength and get ready. But I basically had to do all that in 2.5 weeks before Andorra. So I had very little time, and I was basically just breathing in as much protein as I could and just eating as much as I could by then. And it worked out, and I got back up to, I probably gained maybe 9 to 10 kilos back of that weight.
Okay.
Before Andorra, the next race. And I was feeling all fine for Andorra again. So it was hard work. It definitely, I was going down to the city to see my trainer for 2-hour gym sessions every day, and then just eating hundreds of grams of protein every day. And it was hard. I definitely didn't feel great at that time, just because you're putting on so much weight that your energy levels were still pretty low. But by the time that I kind of leveled that off, that heart of training off a little bit, the energy levels came back, and I was ready to race again. But I was still so gutted to miss out on World Champs and Hardline. I mean, I did get lucky that Hardline didn't end up running because of the weather. But World Champs was gutted to miss that one.
Yeah, you've got a few more ahead of you, man. There's a few more World Champs for you to tackle. We'll be all good. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, out to Andorra then, and maybe not the easiest race to come back at. It was a pretty wild weekend. It's a crazy track, insane weather that weekend as well. How was it stepping back into the mix at that event?
Yeah, so that was a really fun week for me. Actually, really fun 2 weeks, because I ended up flying down to Andorra early and rented a tiny little Airbnb with 5 of my buddies. So I was with Ike Clausen, Ronan Dunn, Teo Langson, and Gonzalo Bandera.
Yeah.
So those are some of my super close buddies in the World Cup circuit, and we just got this place and basically just rode all day, and then gymmed in the afternoon and just had a blast preparing for the race. And I think that's exactly what I needed to to prepare myself for the World Cup, because I was able to get a lot of bike time, just having so much fun on my bike with those boys, and really put me into a good mental place for that, after being so miserable for the 6 weeks before. So that was definitely a really good week for me. And then I was basically feeling race ready by the time Andorra came.
Yeah, and you were on a pretty good run, hey? But it was a flat tire that unfortunately took you out of contention in the end.
Yeah, I mean, Andorra was a crazy weekend. We had, I think they said it was 150 kilometer hour winds up at the top of the hill. Like, the weather was absurd. So I woke up at 4:45 in the morning on race day, and was up at the track by 6. And then I think practice started at like 7 or whatever. And it was like we were able to get a bit of practice in because they knew this weather was coming. And so we did practice from like 7 to 8 in the morning, and then basically just sat there until 4 p.m. So, with you practice, your routine in a race day so much that once one thing changes, it makes a big difference. So, just the mental side of it, like I was like, okay, are we even going to race? Like, what's going on? Like, no one knew what was going to happen. And I actually ended up qualifying third the day before when the weather was all good. And so I was like, okay, like, I'm on for a good result. Like, this would be the most insane comeback, of the time. Like, if I managed to, put a podium down or whatever. And then, I think it got down to the top 10 of the last top 10 guys to go. And, just started piss down rain, crazy winds, like just like the worst timing you could have ever asked for to actually have a good qualifying race. So, and then, the cherry on top is I flatted before the second split. So, all the hopes and dreams of the ideal comeback kind of fell apart there. But, I still happy to be in one piece and focus on for the next race in Loudenvielle. But I feel that one was hard because the top section of the track was super affected by the rain. The bike park corners were super slippery, but once I got down into some of the harder stuff, I feel like I could have gone and put a decent run down, but sadly I flatted before I could actually get to that section. So I was pretty upset that I didn't get to really finish my race run. But then moving on to Loudenvielle, it was another pretty crazy weekend.
Yeah, man, I want to talk about Loudenvielle. That track looked incredible. I had massive FOMO of not going to that one. How was it?
Yeah, Loudenvielle was sick. Another track that, a lighter guy up top will not benefit from. I had a lot of flat sections, and the whole first to second split was really, really flat. So I knew I was going to lose time there, but it was basically about gaining as much as I could. And then once you kind of crest the hill, it just goes straight down. So I was like, if I lose a bit of time here, I'll try and save energy and then push as hard as I can for the bottom. But yeah, again, with crazy schedule, we did track walk and then got down from track walk, and they were like announced that we were going up for practice that afternoon. And we were like, okay, like this is another change in the schedule. With just got to run with it. Like, there's nothing you can really do. You just gotta go ride. So, went for practice that day and then had qualifying the next day. Qualifying went well. I think I finished around like the maybe 10th mark, like not amazing, but, still from where I was a few weeks before, I was stoked to be there. And then we actually had a full day off, on the Saturday where we didn't ride, didn't do anything. We went for a track walk with the team later in the day, but that was when we had a whole bunch of rain, and the track changed drastically. With all the steep stuff, it was really hard to even just like ride the track, let alone go race it. And then by the time Sunday rolled around, things started to dry up a little bit, and we were back racing. But that one was a hard one to get like, with the conditions, get the tire choice right, know exactly how much to push up top and not blow up at the bottom or whatever. So I think that one was a track that didn't really suit me, but I feel like I still did, the best I could. And, I think I was like 2.9 seconds back at one of the splits, and I brought it back down to 0.5 of a second by the finish line. So, that just goes to show that I'm a lot better on the steep stuff than the flat stuff. So, hopefully next year we have steep tracks.
Fingers crossed. It's good. Yeah, it's good for spectators to watch. And on a race weekend like that, where we've got a brand new track, like, is the team around you even more important? Like, you've got people out there. I think the syndicate have got a pretty good setup. People like helping with line choice and line spotting and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, you've got Steve Peat, which is not a bad person to have on your side.
He's pretty cool.
pretty handy at bikes. Like, how important is that on a weekend where you're puzzling a brand new track and working things out?
It's crucial. We have Steve Peat and Gareth Bruin as well on track. So both of them kind of working together. If we have a group chat with the riders and those guys that, if I text that group chat on the way up, they'll go to whatever section I need to look at or maybe improve on and film the other riders going through to see what they're doing and just compare once we get down to the bottom. It's super, super important for us to have that. And Steve's got so much knowledge in the sport, and he knows exactly what he's talking about, and he knows, what line works best. So, couldn't really ask for a better guy to have trackside.
Definitely. Yeah, it's got to help. And like you say, there's a lot going on during a race week, and schedule changes don't help, but you've got an extra task compared to a lot of the riders. You've got the course preview to do. Is that like an added stress for you? Because you always sound super chilled in it. I don't know how you chat as you ride at that pace down the hill, but like, do you enjoy it? Yeah,
no, I actually choose to do the course previews. That's just one thing that, it's a big, like, everyone watches the course preview. So I feel like, if I'm doing it, people, I feel like I can kind of make it funny, cracking jokes on the way down, and instead of just having, another guy just not talk at all. So I feel like, adding my personality into it's pretty fun. And I usually do it on my second run of practice. So it's still when I'm like figuring out the track, and it actually, it may be like something that you kind of you don't really gain much out of on like progressing in the track and getting faster in lines and stuff. But, it's still good to, like, because you actually talk about the sections and you're like, okay, like coming into this right-hand corner. So it actually helps a little bit, like, speaking about it is you'll remember it better just because of, how everything links up, and you kind of, use your, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, but, like, just by saying it, you remember it better. And I think it's something that I like to do as well, because the fans love it too. So
it is a lot of fun to watch. I'll be doing it
next year as well.
Yeah, sweet. No, it's good. It makes sense, I guess. Yeah, you're not getting faster on that run, but it helps you learn the track, because you've got a guy, you're guiding us down it, right? Which means you've got to kind of know where you're going.
Yeah, that's how I should explain it. You got it there.
Yeah, no, keep up, man. We enjoy them. It's good to watch. So we're into Leger after that 4th place in Loudenvielle. It's the 3rd weekend in a row racing, coming off the back of that injury. And as a team, I think you've had a bit of an unfortunate season, right? You've had your appendix issues. Laurie's had that sort of mystery thing throughout the season that's been messing with his energy. And then for the 2nd year in a row, I think quite a few of you got ill in Leger again, right?
We yes, most of the team were cooked at Leger. My mechanic Woody couldn't even show up to work on quality day, so I had to have Lyle be my mechanic for the day and help out, which super super crucial to have him as well to do that. Otherwise I would have been stranded. Bringing my own trainer up to the top would not be ideal. So me and Laurie were probably some of the worst. We basically stayed up all night practice, all night quali night, just like, barfing and everything coming out of every hole you could ever imagine. So it was pretty gruesome. And then woke up that quali day just like, riding on 2 hours of sleep at a World Cup, especially the J, is not fun at all. So that was that was a fun one for me. Just like, like you just can't really do much, right? Like I was like taking hour naps within practice. I think I had like 3 or 4 naps, when I could, just to try and, get some energy back for my quality run. And then, in the start gate for my quality run, and my eyes are like shutting. So, not what you want when you're about to drop into, Leger, which was, a pretty demanding racetrack. But I was able to come down, finish 8th there in quali, which was, I was over the moon with, like, just with how everything went the day before. And then our team manager, Jordan, he had a contact with some, like, doctor. I don't know exactly where he got prescribed these meds, but had some incredible meds that really turned the whole weekend around. I would have been, barely, I don't even think I would have made it into semis if I didn't have those meds. So, slept really well that night because of that, and, started to feel a lot better. And I was super dehydrated from all that, just because, I basically lost all the water in my body. And those pills helped me, get hydrated again and kind of get back up to race spec. And, I definitely wasn't 100% on race day, but I was, good enough to put a race run down. And, I think, Leger was one of the best races of the year, I think, just with the whole podium being separated by 0.6 of a second or whatever.
It was insane.
I was 4th, but if I went 0.4 of a second quicker, I would have won. So it's just like, it's crazy to see that the sport's that tight nowadays. And it's pretty amazing, actually. So I went from Loudenvielle to Leger, went back-to-back 4th places, which, standing on the podium is always an amazing feeling. Still, like, obviously I made one mistake, I think, on that race run in Leger. And it probably costed me, half a second. It was like the minorest mistake. I just blew a little wide into this corner, and it was soft dirt. So I kind of like got hung up a little bit, and, that cost me the win. So, it's pretty crazy to see when, racing's that tight that you really have to be so on point.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it was good, to be fair. It was, again, another fairy tale story to see Benoit take that win in his home country as well. So it was, in a way, it was good to see that. Like,
no, for sure. I mean, I was so stoked to be 4th, especially with how, the weekend went. And it's just, it was cool to be that close to those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And then we're back over the pond, and it's Snowshoe up next. There's a lot going on. I guess there's a focus towards the overall for you as well at this point in the season. Like, it's all looking pretty doable. But Snowshoe in the wet is a scary place to lay it down. How do you approach, I guess, when you've got, like, you probably still want wins, but you've got this eye on the overall as well. How are you approaching the level of risk that you're taking on a track like that? Because it looks like there's quite a high probability of going down in those rocks when it's like that.
Yeah. I mean, Snowshoe's a crazy track. It's flat, and it's the most rocks you've ever seen in your life. Having that overall in mind, I think I was sitting 2nd behind Loic at this point. It's always this thing that, when you go for interviews with people, or you hear, you're just talking with everyone, you're like, oh, like, how are you thinking about the overall? Everyone's talking about this overall. So I was like, trying to kind of keep it outside of my brain and just focus on one race at a time. And, that's something I'm still, like, learning how to do. And maybe I took the right approach. Maybe I didn't. I'll have to, hopefully we'll have that same dilemma next year. But it's, I think just by taking it race by race and really focusing on just going as fast as I can, that's what I love to do. If something goes wrong and that's that. But I really, like, I definitely don't let back with overall in play. I'm still pushing as hard as I can to go fast as I can, just to have that buffer if against the other guys. But it's something I'm still learning, so I don't think I know the exact answer for that.
Fair play. And it wasn't to be, unfortunately. Flatted. Where did you flat in that race? How far down were you?
I think I flatted about 25 seconds in.
No way.
So yeah, pretty gutted on that one. I actually had a massive crash. That I think it was first day of practice in that same section that I flatted. I just got hung up on this root and basically splatted onto a wooden takeoff. And it was like, it had like chicken wire over it. So it was like metal and wood. And I basically just like came to a complete stop on that. My shoulder was all like super sore. And when I came into that section of my race run, I was like, okay, like, take it a bit easy, but I found a way that you could like kind of come up a little bit higher and then like get a pump out of that route that I slipped on in practice. And I think I just landed and pumped too hard. There must have been a rock there that perfectly nicked my tire. And I kind of got through that Y jump in the trees, and I started to feel it going softer and softer. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. This is like one of the most important races, of this season for me, and this is how it's going to end. So I was gutted for sure. And, especially with how my semis went, I was on a really good run. I was pretty much level with Loic. And then, in the last rock garden, I just got off my line ever so slightly and kind of just ran off track. So that was probably that was a tough weekend for me, like just making those tiny mistakes that, have such a big effect. But that's racing. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. And it didn't go well for Loic that weekend either, I guess, which kind of kept the battle alive a little bit and took it to the final round at Mont.
Yeah, I think if he finished on the podium there, he would have won the overall at Snowshoe. So definitely got lucky that he crashed. Obviously, I never want to wish on another rider crashing in the race run. It's it's not how it should be. But that's racing. That's the way it goes. But all eyes were on Mont for sure, and it was getting pretty heated.
Yeah, home track, or as close to home as it gets for you. Like, you're at that point in the season, no one had won 2 races in the year. So there's that goal. There's an overall potential, and basically you're going to pretty much have to win, I think, to get it, because the points gap was fairly big. Final race of the season. What's the mindset for you coming in? Like, it feels like you almost had that similar vibe about you that Finn had the year before.
Yeah, I think I did. As soon as Snowshoe awards ceremony happened, I was like, okay, I need to win Val Di Sole. Mont Like, I need to win Mont to have any chance at the overall. Like, second place isn't even going to cut it. And, that goes to show, like, my mindset throughout the year, like, progressing from, just trying to get a podium throughout the year by, having second place not be enough by the end of it. So, I came into that one with all my energy, all my focus just on going as fast as I can. And I think, we got to Mont and track walk was really sick. It was such a good vibe, being at home in Canada. The fall leaves were super sick, and it was just like, I was just having such a fun time being there. And then, kind of by the time, practice and all that rolled around, I was feeling okay on the bike, practice day and quality day, but like not ideal. Like, I finished 4th or 5th in quality, and I was like, not happy. I wasn't happy with my run. I wasn't happy with my riding. And then, I woke up the next day and I was, I felt like everyone was asking me like, oh, are you like super tired, or like what's going on? Like, cause I was acting a bit different, I think. And, I think it was just me being so focused into winning that I was like, just not talking to anyone and just really focusing on myself. So sorry to everybody if I was, not being nice, but, it kind of worked out in the end. So,
yeah. Well, you won semis, so you're the last man on the hill for finals. Does that change anything for you? I think earlier in your career, that was something you didn't always go your way when you were the last man down, but it feels like that's turned around a bit over the years. Yeah,
I mean, I in my junior ranks, every time I finished second, I would usually win the race. And, the times that I would be last man to drop, I would finish second or crash out. So, it was definitely, some people were making jokes that like, he's last to drop. Is he going to finish last or finish second, or what's going to happen? So, there was definitely some jokes about that, but I woke up that morning and I had this feeling that I was going to win the race. It sounds like weird to say and kind of cocky, but it was weird. It was a weird feeling to have. Like I just like knew I was going to win. And then coming down from that semis run, being 5 seconds up was a really good redemption from qualifying the day before, and that's the speed that I was looking for, and that was like the feeling that I was looking for. We made another change on the bike for finals day, and I think that really kind of helped boost that confidence a bit. Uh-huh. And
what did you change?
Honestly, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like 2 clicks on the fork, and that's all it was.
Yeah.
But like nothing major, but just something to help with. I think I went 2 clicks firmer on compression, just to kind of keep the front end up and not dive into the holes. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But that kind of just, made me feel like I was invincible on the bike. And that whole practice in the morning and semis went so well. I came down from, it rained that night. So, we were all like, what's the track going to be? Because it was bone dry before that. And I think, I nailed pretty much everything with tire choice, bike setup, preparation. That was the perfect weekend for me.
Yeah, it was pretty perfect. Did you think you found that flow state? Like, did it feel similar to the Val Di Sole experience, or was it different when you were on the bike?
I definitely was in the flow state of not remembering anything, but it was elevated from the Val Di Sole experience, because Val Di Sole, I was making mistakes and changing lines and all this stuff, where my Mont Sainte Anne run, I didn't have a single mistake. But the other like kind of weird feeling that I had, like once I finished my semis run and I was 5 seconds ahead, I was like, that wasn't my 110% run. Like that wasn't everything I could give. And so it kind of made me feel like maybe I don't have to like give absolutely everything I have to win this race. So it was a weird mindset. I was like, do I like push just as hard? Is everyone else going to go a lot faster, or like what's going to happen? So I was last to drop, and I heard from the top, I heard Ethan Crate come down, because he was the second to last guy to drop, and I heard him into the finish line, and everyone like roared super loud, and that's when I knew like, okay, like I actually have to go pretty fast here. And then dropped in for my run. I changed a few lines that for my semis run, because it rained. There was like one line right out the start gate that you kind of hop over this rock that was a bit sketchy in the semis run, but I was like, it's faster, I have to do it at my finals. So I ended up, there was like 2 or 3 lines like that where I switched up my line for the finals run, and it paid off. But it was crazy. That run was pretty much perfect, all the way top to bottom. But I never really felt like I was out of control, or like, pushing too hard where I was nervous or anything. Like I was like in this state where I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what was coming next. And like everything, just like my run was perfect, but it was like perfect enough that I didn't even like that was like 95% of me pushing. Like I probably had more in the tank. But I think just by staying smooth and not like pushing too hard, you actually, maybe carry more speed or do whatever. And that worked out great. But, it was a crazy feeling being last guy to drop as well. Like, there's no one at the top anymore. It's just you, like a few mechanics and the commissaires and all the spectators, and everyone's gone down to the bottom. So it progressively gets louder and louder and louder as you go down. So it was a pretty cool feeling. But as soon as I kind of exited that rock garden, like just where like Finn crashed, I knew that I was on an absolute heater. I was like, I was just having so much fun because every line was working how I wanted. I was making all my braking points perfectly. It was just dialed. So as soon as I kind of came out there, I was like, okay, like make it home, and we'll see where we end up.
Yeah.
And
Unreal, man. Were you aware of the crowd as it was building, as you were heading down the hill? Like, was that making its way into your conscious?
Not, I wouldn't say it was like kind of messing with my head or at all. I just, you hear it, right? So, yeah, I think it was, just progressively getting louder. I would hear my bike less and my rear hub less and start hearing the crowd more. So that was changing all the way through. But what was really cool and a sick feeling that I'd love to have at every single World Cup was I finished that run and I was not fatigued at all. I don't know how I did it. Whether it was, the mindset that I was in, the flow state or whatever it was, or my warm up, I got down to the bottom and I took, a few breaths and I was like, felt recovered already. So I think that's a feeling that I think every racer's after, because as soon as fatigue comes into your brain and it's like, let's say your hands start to get tired at, halfway down the track, that's all you're thinking about is save your hands so you don't crash. Right. Yeah. So I think by not feeling any sort of fatigue the whole way down, it was just making me able to push, the whole way down, which was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and you got rugby tackled pretty quickly by one of the staff after you crossed the finish line, though. Like, I think I heard you say you wanted to do like a bit of a Stevie Smith bike throw, and never quite happened. But did that take you by surprise? The guy came out of nowhere, right?
Well, Ronan came out of nowhere for me. I was like, still slamming on the brakes to come to a stop, and Ronan's already like throwing himself at me because he was so stoked. And then I got rugby tackled. But yeah, I wanted to do. When Stevie Smith won the overall in Leogang, 2016 or 2017, one of those years, maybe?
I can't remember to be sure.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. He like threw his bike into this 360, and I wanted to do that same thing. Just, it would have been the coolest story. Obviously I didn't know if I won the overall or if Loic did or whatever happened, but if I did that bike throw, it could have been really cool. But yeah, the people just came at me too quick. I couldn't get down to a stop, and I wasn't able to make it happen. But I was a little disappointed at getting rugby tackled because I wanted to run into the crowd and go celebrate and like just be in it. But they like ripped me away and like put me into the podium, like the hot seat, and like I wasn't really able to talk to anyone, and it was just weird. So. I think if I end up having that same moment again in my life, I'll just try and run away from them and fight back harder. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll have that moment again. But kind of wish I got to celebrate that more.
Yeah, pretty incredible day out. So first elite season, you suffered a pretty serious medical issue for basically half the season. You still managed to be the only rider to take 2 wins out of the year. You nearly took the overall at the first time of asking. First off, how do you feel about that? That's a pretty insane performance.
Yeah, I mean, it really took a while to like settle in on exactly what I did to this season, and I think it's something that motivates me really like a lot for next year or for this year as well. Is like that was my first year elite. What can I do in my second? So it's a crazy feeling to be able to do that. And, obviously it's, having the whole team around me has been amazing, and just everyone involved, helps so much. So, I can't thank everyone enough, but, it's still something that I wake up and think like, I won Mont Sainte Anne, I won Val Di Sole, like what the heck? Like it surprises me more often than not. So, I think, just, fires me up more for next year.
Yeah. I guess the flip side of that, though, is it sort of puts a target on your back. Like you're the rider to beat, I would say, coming out of this season. Like, how does that feel? Because you've gone from this sort of almost unknown commodity coming out of juniors. We don't know how he's going to get on. We think he'll do all right, but we're not sure. To suddenly, like, there's a lot of people that are going after you now. Yeah.
I mean, to one-up what I did last year is going to be really hard. I think with the level of the sport and some injured riders will be coming back as well. So I think, it'd be an absolute dream to do what I did last year. But, I think I might have to drop the expectations a little bit, just kind of the same how I did leading into this year. And just try and kind of go with the same flow and same mindset as last year. And, I mean, gotta just take every race as its own, and keep progressing each one. So we'll see, but definitely nervous already.
That's a healthy way to be, I guess. Are there certain things you want to work on over the winter then? Are there like gaps that you're looking to close? What does your off-season kind of training and prep look like?
I mean, I think getting a bit stronger is always one of them. Working with Woody a bit more as well, and getting the bike dialed even more is another thing I'm looking forward to. But I heard in another podcast that Loic's trying to lose weight because of me. So don't know if that's true or if he's actually doing that or not. But I think just kind of sticking to what works best for me and kind of doing my own thing is what I'll really be focusing on, and just enjoying it.
Yeah, you hear a lot of riders, I think, especially in that like early elite, late junior, trying to bulk up and like put on more muscle and more weight. And do you ever feel the need to do that? Because it feels like your physique sort of works with your riding style, which seems like it's like I would say your energy use is pretty efficient. Like you don't muscle the bike down the hill. It's more like you dance the bike down a hill, which sounds a bit weird, but like it's a much lighter touch to compare it to a more aggressive style like Amory or Loic maybe.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely, a smaller rider will have that kind of different riding style to everyone else. But, that's what's cool about the sport is Loic is what, 80, 90 kilos probably. And I'm, 60 and we can both put down, very similar race runs, but do it in our own way, which I think is why, racing is so sick.
Yeah, for sure. Another big change for 2024, you're not going to have Greg on the team, which, he's been there so long. It's been a big chunk of knowledge like gone from the Santa Cruz Syndicate pit. Have you benefited from being with Greg for these last few seasons? Like, you feel like you've learned quite a lot from him? I guess you're very different riders, but...
obviously we won't have Greg on the syndicate next year. It was a big change for him and us as well. He had a rough go this season. And I think, with, he's 43 now, 42. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but, he's close to retiring and everyone thinks he's going to retire this year, and then he just goes for another one. So, he's just such an amazing athlete in that sense that he can, be at the top level of the sport for this long, and it's incredible. But, with racing and how the team goes, like we're all one big team, but, you still have to really focus on yourself and work with kind of your mechanic or whatever. So, we all work together as well, like looking at GoPro lines and all this stuff and working with Steve on line choice. And, I never we always had like good support, but, once Mont Saint Anne happened, he really, really turned into an amazing mentor for me. And, just helped so much with line choice and, making sure I had everything I need. He literally turned into a team manager, which was really, really cool. And I'm super thankful for him for doing that. And, it was funny to see, Greg Menard helping a 19-year-old kid at a World Cup. Like it just did, when you look at it from the outside, it didn't really make sense. But it just shows how nice of a guy he is, and how much he loves racing. So it was really cool to see that. And obviously he's not gonna be on the team next year, so I'll miss that. But wish him well with all his new projects. So we'll always be tight.
It's going to be interesting to see how that all goes. I'm excited by that project. It's a cool thing they're doing over there. And then another big change for 2024 is that we're going to be kicking off the season with a brand new hardline in Tasmania. And you're on the list. From an outsider perspective, it seems pretty mad to me that like title contenders like yourself and Loic are going to go to a race, an event like that ahead of the World Cup season. Like the risk seems really high. I'm guessing for you guys it feels a bit different, but like, how are you feeling about that? Because the track's looking pretty insane from everything I've seen. I think Bernard's on his way out to do some testing, but it looks like it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have risk every day of our lives. Like with, I go on a trail ride and I'm risking myself for training. So it's we as professional athletes, we live on the edge of risk and reward. So I I think thankfully it's early enough in the season that, if something does go wrong and, injuries happen. So if anything happens, I think we have time to recover a bit before the World Cup season. And, I think it's such a cool event, Hardline. The exposure is really good there, and just getting to like be there and ride those big jumps is such an honor in itself. So I think, it kind of makes the risk factor a bit better and a little bit easier to handle. So, so I'm going to be going down to New Zealand for 3 weeks in Queenstown. I'm actually going to race Hardline as well, Hardline and Threadbow as well. So the Australian Nationals.
Sweet.
So I've got a pretty big block of travel coming up pretty soon. And then I'm actually going to Japan for 10 days as well. So that'll be pretty sick as well.
Nice. For mountain biking?
Yeah. Whole team's going. I don't want to spoil too much because I actually don't even know what we're doing. But we're going to Japan.
Now that will be really interesting. That's a place I've never been to that is high on the list of places I'd like to go with either a bike or a snowboard. So
for sure.
Nice, man. Exciting stuff. Well, dude, it's been a lot of fun watching you on the mountains around the world this year. It's always a pleasure to watch you, and the way that you manage to ride a bike down a hill is something pretty special. So thank you for that. Thanks for the GoPro previews. We definitely enjoy those as fans, getting some insight into what the track's actually like. And I'm excited to see how 2024 goes for you, man. If people want to keep up to date and follow you, where's the best place for them to look?
Yeah, I mean, just my Instagram at Jackson Goldstone. I've got pretty much all the social medias. Got a YouTube, but I don't really post there much. Got my TikTok. I mean, and then you can pretty much go to any sponsor website like Red Bull, Santa Cruz website. I think they've got some stuff up. But Instagram's probably my main point of contact. So
okay, nice one. I'll dig out some links and stick those in the show notes. But thanks for making time to chat, man. All the best for the rest of the off season. And I look forward to seeing how you get on in Fort William when that rolls around in May.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming pretty soon. So looking forward to it.
Nice one. Cheers, Jackson.
Cheers, Chris.